Cool.
Welcome back to another podcast on the Finish Line podcast with me and Gaurav. Name has a little bit of technical difficulty, so he's not here right now. He might be later. And big welcome to our first guest on this podcast, Saurav Bandyopadhyay. Thanks for being here, man.
Hi everyone.
Hi. So yeah, Saurav, let's get the ball rolling. So tell us a little bit about yourself, about your racing career, and yeah, let's get started.
So I think 2007. I'm a big fan of Formula One. Actually, I was a Michael Schumacher fan. I used to hate Fernando Alonso. I can't believe that because when he came onto the scene, he started like beating Alonso, and I was like pissed off about it. But then I became a Fernando Alonso fan, and I was like, okay, I like this stuff. Maybe we do something about it. But like 2006, 7, there was zero clue. I went hunting for the Powai track that used to be there in Mumbai,
Mm.
and then I started asking around for training, and nobody had any clue, right? So I learned a little bit from some marshals at a track in Chembur. There used to be this track in Acres Club. I learned a little bit from some marshals. And then I met some guys who had taken training. I used to watch them and they were really fast. So I became friends with them, started driving with them. And then I started learning from them. So it was a weekend thing. We used to save our pocket money, which in 2006, 7 was like a little bit. So we used to save it all week. And then on weekend, we used to go and just like drive together. So it was me and a couple of other guys, including Steve. Steve, who runs our Rayo Racing two-stroke operations right now, the road tax operations. So, we used to drive, we used to race each other. And we did some local tournaments where my friends who were trained and who were quite good, they won and they did a good job, right? So then we were like, okay, let's go and see what this whole national championship is all about, right? So we went, showed up in Goa for a race, and it was a MRF four-stroke national championship, and that's where we met Rio. And we spoke to him, and we spoke about training and how to move forward and stuff like that. So from there, after that race, we enrolled with Rio for a training, and that's where motorsport began. From karting, then I did four-stroke karting, then I did Rotax, which is two-stroke karting, then eventually got into cars, and so in fact, in between, I took a 5-year break from racing because beyond the point it got expensive, and I was like, okay, now I'm turning 20 and can't take money from home. I did get a sponsor, so a sponsor helped one season of racing, and I was doing well. That was the time I was just starting to do well and get some podiums. So I was like, okay, next year is championship, but then next year there was no money, right? So
But this was
then I
when you
ended
were
up.
karting.
This is when I got selected in the Polo Cup in the first year of
Okay.
Polo Cup.
Okay.
The first
Oh,
two
so
years
you
of.
did your first year in Polo Cup when you were 19.
No, so I was around 2021 that time,
Okay.
right? So I did karting for a few years. And then when Volkswagen Polo Cup came to India in 2010, all the top drivers in the country were, going for
Mhm.
the selections, right? So me and a couple of other guys from karting, we were like, yaar, apna to nahi hone wala hai. But Rio was like, go try, see what happens, right? And we were like the 18th and 20th to get in. All the drivers we used to look up to had gotten in, and we started racing with them, started learning. And next year I got a sponsor, and I got a couple of podiums, and I was like, okay, you know what? Now it's time to come together. And then money became a challenge, right? So
Mm.
I thought, okay, I'll take a break for 1 year, 2 year, make the money come back, and that became like a 5-year break till I could, figure out my professional side of life and finances and come back with my own money, then. And after I came back in 2017 season, I've had the maximum podiums and wins as compared to what I had in my first half of the career. So, yeah,
Mega. Yeah,
that's
that's a very good
in
story.
brief. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I
That's
mean,
like the comeback story that
yeah.
all of us need.
Oh
But
yeah, it was wild, man. It was wild. When I came back, my first lap after 5 years of staying out of motorsport, I spun a touring car, and I'm sitting in the car, beached at Coimbatore, thinking, how the hell did you spin a touring car? I mean, like, and I'm like, oh shit, have I made a mistake? And was I being too ambitious and stuff like that? And uh, yeah, after that, it worked out.
but
I mean,
I'm
that's
really glad. I
lovely.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah, Yeah, it sounds like a great comeback story. But I have a follow-up question from your origins.
Yeah.
That why do you think that states like below Maharashtra were the only states
Mm.
and are still the only states that have karting as a sport and have tracks? Like even now, I think that there are not a lot of tracks. Even Goa and Kolhapur shut down, so technically there's
Mm.
only Bangalore and Hyderabad right now, which are Rotax Max that can happen. The championship can happen. So why do you
Mm.
think that this is a concern in India? Like why are the tracks only in the south?
Because the culture grew over there, right? Back in the 60s and 70s, there was car racing over there in Sholavaram, and it was a thing, and it was quite glamorous, and there were uh, some of the biggest industrialists and businessmen in India, taking cars, racing there. So the culture grew over there, and then from there, people had interest, they built tracks, and it's a culture thing, right? Enough people are doing it, and there's interest, and then they start growing it. Like, Kolhapur, once they got that Rotax track, for a few years after that, you just had champions or vice champions or the top guys from Kolhapur, because now suddenly they had a track.
Yeah.
When we opened a four-stroke track in Pune, for the next few years, we had, some four-stroke champions coming out of Pune, right? So it is about that culture building, and then people getting to know about it. Now we have so many top drivers from Mumbai in the last few years, since again our track in Mumbai came up, right? In between, there was a little bit of a lull. We didn't have a track in this region,
Right.
right? But now our drivers have a facility to practice regularly, and they are performing better wherever they go, right? So a lot to do with culture, and it's expensive to put up a track. You need land, and you need to invest significant amount, and the business model, unless you think about it properly and plan properly about the business model, you won't be profitable.
Mhm.
So it's either somebody doing it purely out of passion, where they don't care about a return, or somebody has to be really thoughtful and um, structure it in a way that it's profitable. uh, in our case, you could say, fortunately or unfortunately, it is, we have to make the business work. you know so we always try to do things in a way that it makes sense, and there's revenue and stuff like that. Because uh, and now over time I've realized that there has to be non-motorsport revenue for motorsport to grow, right? And as much as we've been able to do that, we've been able to make motorsport affordable, especially the four-stroke karting that we do and the races that we organize. It's so affordable, because we are focused on our revenue streams, you know, uh, like trying to create revenue streams through non-motorsport activities, which is
Right.
recreation and entertainment oriented stuff. So uh, it's complicated to make this business model work. And that's why I guess not many people do it, but there is potential if done right.
Mhm.
Yeah. So uh, now that we have couple of tracks here, we started one in Ahmedabad, you
Right.
know. Uh, Fortunately, both are quite popular. So hopefully, this gives rise to more awareness and more interest. And then in a couple of years or in a year's time, we should have a two-stroke facility in the Western region. And then you will see in 2 years, you're having more champions and more drivers out of this region. They just need access. Uh, that's all.
I have a quick follow-up question, but more into the world just above karting, like getting started with cars, for example. Why isn't the motorsport community or, motorsport in general not as big in India as it should be yet, considering there's been a lot of rise of, people falling in love with Drive to Survive from Netflix and, just getting more into motorsport. But for me, I still feel motorsport is like a big journey for an Indian to get to the top tier. So we just have like Kush and Jehan and Arjun racing in the top rungs of motorsport currently. And is it all because of the money, or is it just because there isn't enough awareness yet? What's your opinion?
I think there's enough money in India.
Okay.
Money is not the problem. I only feel it's awareness, and it's also like, see, everybody plays cricket, right?
Right.
I mean, sometimes I still play cricket with our staff at the track uh, when they are playing. Right? It's a fun sport, and you can just take a bat and ball and you can play anywhere. Right? Is everybody playing to become a top level cricketer? No, they're
No.
playing for recreation. But because they play for recreation, they also follow that sport and they have a connection with that sport. That is very difficult when, like with motorsport, you're only watching and you're only following. You
Yeah.
can't do the sport that often unless there's a
Correct.
karting track nearby. You know, so if there are more karting tracks where people actually experience this thing, right? Then, um, some percentage of people will think, hey, I like this. I want to do it. Maybe as a hobby, right? And then, that community of hobbyists grows and, there's more
Yeah.
participation in amateur events, and then from there, you'll get some guys who want to do it seriously,
Mhm.
and then if that is the scale, if thousands of people are showing up for an amateur event, then a sponsor will look at it and be like, okay, wow, like
Exactly.
people like
More
this.
awareness,
I'll put
right?
the money. Yeah,
Yeah.
what is the proof for a brand that people actually like the sport? Fine, they watch Formula One, they watch football, they watch so many other things. But what is the hard proof that okay, if some brand invests, okay, there's going to be enough following from Indians for the brand to make sense, like of that investment.
Mhm.
So I think we need more karting tracks. We need more people doing this thing.
Right.
Okay. It could be even simulators,
Yeah.
but people doing it, enjoying it. I mean, who doesn't want to be a race driver?
For
You
sure.
ask a kid who has basic internet access, what do you want to be? They'll be like, I want to be a cricketer or a football player or a rocket scientist or a race driver. Who doesn't want to be a race driver?
Yeah.
Who doesn't like racing games? But how many people actually get to do it? It's a whole different feeling,
That's true.
and I
But
think,
yeah,
yeah,
sorry to cut you off, but that's the thing. I don't think us as Indians are even shown of it as an opportunity. We don't even think about being a race driver. Like that doesn't even come, or that our mind doesn't even comprehend to that level, because it's always like cricket. Or even if you think about the wildest things that you can do in life, or occupations
hmm,
that you can choose, people will be like cricketer, actor. They don't even think about being a race driver, because of the shortage of facility or the equipment or the
Basic
resources
awareness.
that
Yeah.
we have. Yeah, or
also the
resources as
perception.
well. Yeah.
People look at it as a rich man's sport. You go
Exactly.
anywhere and tell your family or family friends, okay, who are not aware, who don't know much about motorsport, that you race, right? They'll be like, okay, wait, like they have that perception that it is an expensive sport, which is an expensive sport, and
Yeah.
Yeah,
the
true.
perception is it is for the elite. Until you can get in a cart and do karting, you will keep thinking ki it's for the elite. You know how
Mm.
you look at people playing polo, right? They're like, Arey, that is for the Maharajas,
It's true.
right? That's how
Yeah.
people look at motorsport, which
Racing.
in some ways is true, in some ways not true. You know, People need access, people need to be able to race.
Yeah.
you know he might be a corporate working at his job, but he likes motorsport. He should be able to show up at his local karting track, race with his friends, irrespective, like how
Yeah.
people play cricket with their colleagues, or there is
Exactly.
like corporate cricket events, corporate football events, right? It needs to be a natural part of your activities. If it is so alien, people will look at it that way.
Hmm. That's true. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a
Also,
good
don't you think that's
perspective.
a yeah? But don't you think that's a shortfall from India's media as well? Because honestly, I think the F4s that happen in India, they're beautiful. That's like raw racing. I'm at track watching it. I don't see races like that. Four four people taking one corner. It's beautiful. But then don't you think if that is televised and marketed in a way that people can watch it and people understand it, then there will be a lot more people following racing? Because at the end of the day, when someone who's from your city or who's from your town who is racing, and a lot of people are from different parts of India who are racing, then you get attached to that person as an individual who is entering the sport and into the sport as well. So don't you think that is one shortfall that we face as well?
But I think, how many of us watch any kind of national sport? We don't watch Ranji Trophy. We don't watch our internal football matches, interstate, or I don't know the football structure. I know ISL happens.
Yeah,
ISL
I see.
people watch because it's publicized.
Yeah.
So how many people are going to watch a national sport is a big question. Unless you have one driver from India who becomes an icon,
Yeah.
okay, it's going to capture people's imagination. कि oh
Right.
wow, वो उधर गया और उसने जीता, and he
Hmm.
unfurled the Indian flag, and that becomes a aspiration. Then people are like, okay, let's see what we can do. Like you see Formula E coming to India, you see Jehan doing well, and suddenly there has been you've been in the sport last few years and you've seen that growth is crazy,
Yeah.
whether it's in the FLGB or 1300 Polo Cup karting. Have you seen the karting grids this year in Rotax? It's phenomenal. In
Yeah.
the last few years it's grown. Why? Because Formula E has come here. Mahindra has a team in Formula E. Iman is doing well. He's been in the news holding the Indian flag on the top step of the podium, and then suddenly it captures everybody's imagination. They're like, oh wow, ये
Exactly.
कर सकते हैं, हो
Yeah.
सकता है. And then I've seen it, the correlation with inquiries we get. The inquiries go up, right? Because then
Oh,
people are
wow.
like, okay, this is doable, and Indian is doing it, we want to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's directly correlated to an Indian doing well. Our
Hmm.
inquiries going up. You know,
Oh,
yeah. So I can tell you that side of things. Is that
yeah.
at what point do people think of taking action?
Hmm.
Makes sense.
That sounds fantastic. I mean, yeah, so I have a question regarding Rayo Racing and your plans with it.
Huh.
What exactly is the plan with Rayo Racing to make it, more inclusive with more drivers? I mean, obviously you talked about, reduce cost, making four-stroke more affordable, but then, going into other categories and, like just over-karting also to give them the right push. Just I've seen ki IndyCar, mein, they have that ladder where if you're the champion, you get like the entire subsidized going into the next top tier of championship. So
Hmm.
something like that in India. What do you guys plan with Rayo Racing?
So I'll just explain that there are two separate companies. One is Indy Karting, which is into
Yeah,
four-stroke karting and running the karting tracks, and Rayo Racing, which is the team and the academy.
yeah,
Right. So under Indy Karting, we do everything related to karting. So whenever we have done a championship, okay, we've always tried to reserve an amount of capital towards sponsoring drivers. So when we did the national championship, the Indy Karting National Series with JK Tyre and Tata Motors, of the sponsorship went to the drivers. So the winners in the senior and the junior category got sponsored to Rotax,
okay,
fully sponsored. Right. So the idea always has been that, okay, fine, we face some challenges, let's make it easier for people.
exactly. Yeah,
Right. While it is a
Yeah.
business, but let's make the business model such that you're supporting talent.
Making.
You know.
Yeah.
Uh, so that is one what we try to do in karting, and we have tried to grow the four-stroke karting infrastructure, because without four-stroke karting, the sport is not going to grow.
right.
Imagine the costs of Rotax right now in India, worldwide, everywhere are absurd. A person gets into a sport, and if they have to spend that right away, it's not
Exactly.
happening,
Yeah.
right? So four-stroke has to be there, and we are always pushing to keep that four-stroke culture alive and
Mm.
to grow it. And we have grown it considerably. Now we are in two cities. We do some races at Ahmedabad also. And the culture over there is fabulous. There are so many
Mhm.
regular drivers. There are so many drivers trained by Rayo Racing. They come there together and they drive and they compete, and it's phenomenal to see that. And that is the culture. You know, they are not thinking Formula One and all that. They are like jate race karte.
Uh-huh.
Let's see who's quickest. They show up, they race, and that's the culture. And some fast drivers are coming out of there, right? Uh, so that is on the four-stroke front. We're doing whatever we can to kind of grow and keep costs down,
Yeah.
all the time. Then on the Rotax front, things are expensive. Nothing you can do about it.
Mm.
Especially then when we go abroad, it's even more expensive. So they're very difficult for us to kind of find ways to subsidize, because there we are a team participating. In four-stroke, we're organizers. But obviously now that, Rayo Racing has taken over the Polo Cup and will be running Polo Cup, uh, the idea is to continue the Polo Cup ladder where, Polo Cup used to sponsor the winner in ITC, with the ITC car in the Indian Touring Car Championship. We want to continue that. So person comes in, wins the Polo Cup, the person will get sponsored to race in ITC. So there is a ladder for somebody who's doing well in the Polo Cup. They can move up, drive a faster race car, and compete in a more stronger grid. So that we want to continue. Obviously, this is the last thing is more like a fantasy, and we've always spoken about it. Key take somebody from karting to cars.
Yeah,
Now we can actually do it. We
exactly.
have the
Yeah.
four-stroke competition. We can take somebody from four-stroke to two-stroke, and maybe if everything comes together and there is right kind of funding, we can actually take somebody from two-stroke into cars.
Mm.
Because we are running a car championship now, right? So we have the right infrastructure to actually do the full ladder. And imagine that'll be phenomenal for somebody who starts in four-stroke, makes it all the way to cars, just by proving themselves. And for a guy like me, when I started in 2007, it would have been a dream,
For
right?
sure.
So if we can do something like that, it'll be great. And now with IR Esports, which is our gaming company, which we started a few years back, we did this very innovative concept with Volkswagen Motorsport uh, 2.5 years back, where we just during the pandemic we did the Volkswagen Virtual Racing Championship, online competition all around India. The winner got sponsored to race in the real world. You
Yeah.
know, again, that was like a dream. He find talent who's sitting at home, who's good at the sport, doesn't have the budget. Pick the person, put him in a race car, or
This is
put him or
basically
her in a race car,
this is basically
right?
the
And
Gran Turismo movie Indian version.
sorry,
Yeah, correct.
It's the Gran
the
Turismo
Gran
movie Indian
Turismo, yeah,
version.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And Volkswagen Motorsport was so excited about it. Volkswagen India was excited about it. They're like, huh, this is great. Let's do it.
Yeah.
You know, and so, we are doing whatever possible to help guys like us who have the dream
Yeah.
to, get them and push them ahead and see them do well.
And that is
Nice.
lovely to hear. That's
Yeah,
that,
that
that's
is
like
actually great.
inspiring also.
Yeah.
Uh, a quick question for you. Do you plan on competing this year, considering that Rayo is organizing Polo Cup, or
So
is
now I
that?
can't compete in that, right? Even last year, I was just there as a guest driver, a few times. So I can't race in the Polo Cup now since we are the organizers. There would be
Mhm.
conflict of interest, and we want to keep it clean and proper. It should not. At no point should there be a doubt in the participants' mind. Ki yaar, organizer bhi hai,
Ah,
participant bhi hai. It should
wait.
not be like that. It needs to be clean. I have to look for something else to drive. Only challenge is if I'm running the Polo Cup on the same weekend, there are other categories. I cannot have the mind space to race. So now it is tricky to see what I can drive. I want to drive because I've been winning and getting podiums the last few years. So I feel good that hunger is there. And
Yeah.
3 times in a row, I've
I've
been
seen
this close
that.
to winning the
Second,
championship.
second. I remember that.
And
Yeah.
I'm not, it's been second, third, second, right? So that have to win that championship. That hunger is there. So that I have to find the championship and then I have to go win it.
But I would
Yeah.
say that maybe you could take a sabbatical,
Hmm.
race in the Polo Cup, win the Polo Cup, and come back. That'll be a great
Uh,
story to tell as
Yeah,
well.
man, that's so crazy.
no, I right now need all hands on deck to run the Polo Cup. So uh, it looks like I'll have to take a little break from racing and make a second comeback.
Yeah, for
I mean,
sure.
I think it's stretching it, but I want to win. I want to win a championship.
Yeah, man,
Uh,
that talent doesn't go
yeah.
away that easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Fortunately, it's there, and we have a karting track, so I still keep karting.
Yeah.
It's there. It's all good.
Yeah, man, I did like a 100 lap karting session at the chicane circuit like 4 दिन पहले. My body
Uh,
completely was like, oh, this is it. This is actually like good stuff, and it prepares you really well. I mean, your
yeah.
whole story, like making it more inclusive is just fantastic to hear. We need more people like you in India to make it happen,
Yeah,
man.
exactly.
Now, see, we were struggling. We were, doing whatever we could to make our careers work, like Rayo and me. And then Rayo helped me in whatever way he could, even though he was running a team and he was running a business. So it is just by nature that everybody in the team has kind of worked hard to make their motorsport career work because everybody was kind of like from a middle class background. So now we are like यार अपने जैसे बंदे लोग को help करना है, you
Correct,
know.
exactly.
Yeah.
And that I respect so much
Yeah,
because
man,
yeah, all of
same.
us are from similar backgrounds and we have struggled as well. We're still struggling and
Correct,
we can't get anywhere. So I'm like, yeah, that's
And yeah,
incredible. And
man,
for people who are watching this is great for like kids who are getting into the sport, like who are entering the sport. Because even if you are wealthy, I mean, they're not go in India, especially. Even if you are wealthy, after a point, you don't know what to do. But if there are steps like this, it's so much easier to move up, and then go forward. Yeah. So just this is incredible for not just us, but entire racing community as well at a whole.
Yeah, I
Yep.
mean, I know exactly how it feels, you just get started, you're clueless, but then when that point of time when you get to, unfurl the Indian flag on the top step, listen to that national anthem,
That was
Yeah.
that
fabulous,
is
man.
that is
Epic. That was epic.
incredible.
Yeah, yeah.
That is just
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
incredible.
fabulous stuff, man.
Yeah.
Congrats again. Yeah.
Thanks.
I know
I
it's been a
mean,
while since you got that
yeah,
win, but again, congrats again.
thanks, man.
Epic
Thanks.
stuff.
I mean, this was the most inspirational podcast for me, in my opinion. Whatever I've heard, whatever I've been part of, this has been incredible. So, thank you so much, Saurav, to be part of this. And I guess that wraps it
Thanks,
up.
guys.
So, thank you for being
Yeah.
part of the podcast, and
Yeah,
that wraps it
thank
up.
you. And if you want to say, like, we have like 40 seconds. If you want to just say something, you can. Like,
I mean, I think I all I want to say is don't complicate it. You like the sport, go try. Then the rest will happen. Just drive. Don't overthink it. Just show up at a track and race some friends and take it from there.
Ah, man,
yeah,
that's lovely. Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much.
Cool.
thank you.